All right, let's talk about photography. Today, we're going to completely flip the script on what you think is happening when you take a picture. We're diving into this really powerful idea that the very act of creating an image sets off a chain reaction, a loop that actually changes you, the photographer. I mean, really think about it. When you lift that camera up to your eye, what are you actually doing? Is it just a one-way street? You point a box at reality and just capture a little slice of it. Or is there something way more complex, something almost alive going on?
The simple view is that photography is linear. Reality goes into the camera and an image comes out. End of story. But what if it's more like the Ouroboros, that ancient symbol of a snake eating its own tail? What if it's a constant recursive loop, where the picture you just took feeds right back into your brain, changing how you see and guiding the very next shot you take? In other words, the photo makes the photographer. To really get this, we've got to look way beyond the simple snapshot. We're stepping into what's called the cybernetic loop of vision. It's a fancy term, but the idea is simple. Photography isn't just one action. It's a closed feedback system where every single part is talking to every other part. And this loop, it maps perfectly onto our snake metaphor. It all starts with the input, that's the tail, just raw light from the world hitting your lens. Then comes the process, or the digestion, where the camera's internal black box does its mysterious thing. Next, you get the output, the body of the snake, as the final image pops up on your screen. And then, and this is the most important part, the feedback, the bite. That's when the image you just made informs your brain and completely changes how you're going to take the next picture. So let's dig into that digestion phase first. How does the camera consume the world? Because, and this is key, it turns out your camera is not a neutral tool at all. It is actively, constantly programming you. This idea comes from a philosopher named Wilhelm Flusser, and he called the camera a black box. And it makes perfect sense, right? We know what goes in, light, we know what comes out, a picture. But that whole transformation from a photon to a pixel, it's totally hidden from us. It's an algorithm. And that black box has its own program, its own set of rules. And to take any picture at all, you have to play its game. So here's the bottom line. Your camera is not some passive hammer you just swing around. It's an active system with its own built-in logic. I mean, think about it. When you shoot an aperture priority, the camera is setting the shutter speed for you. It's programming a certain type of shot. The focal length of your lens literally dictates how close or far you have to be. Even that little rule of thirds grid you can turn on in your viewfinder is a subtle program, guiding your choices before you even realize you're making them. Okay. Now we get to the most crucial, most mind-bending part of the whole loop, the bite. This is that moment when the image you just created starts talking back to you. It's when the output flips and becomes the new input for your very next move. And to really understand this feedback, we can borrow two absolutely brilliant concepts from Roland Barthes. First, you have the studium. That's the obvious general meaning of a photo. It's what you meant to capture. Yep, that's a photo of a soldier. But then there's the punctum. The punctum is some tiny, often accidental detail that just pierces you emotionally. It's that soldier's worn-out shoe, a detail you might not have even seen when you clicked the shutter, but it carries all this unexpected emotional weight. And that is the feedback loop in action. The moment you look down at your screen, you're getting hit with both. You get feedback from the studium, did I get the shot I wanted? And you might get hit by the punctum. Whoa, look at that little detail I didn't even notice. Both of these inputs, the thing you planned and the thing you didn't, instantly rewire your brain for the next shot. The image is now in control. Now you might be thinking, okay, so I'm just running around in circles, but it's not like that at all. Repeating this loop isn't a flat circle. It's actually a spiral, always moving you upward toward mastery. Each loop builds on the last one, taking you from someone who just follows the camera's rules to someone who becomes the rules. This journey kind of happens in stages. At first, you're the technician. You're just trying to master the known, the exposure triangle composition, so you can get a technically perfect shot every time. Then you evolve into the artist. You start to play against the camera's program, intentionally breaking those rules to create something new and exciting. And finally, you might reach the state of the master. This is where the whole process is so intuitive, the camera just feels like an extension of your own body. The loop is you. And this really gets to the core of that artistic journey, doesn't it? Real growth doesn't come from just perfectly obeying the system. It comes from creating friction, from pushing back against the machine's programming to force it and to force yourself into totally new creative places. So where does this whole spiral lead? What's at the very top? What's the ultimate state you can achieve inside this photographic loop? Well, it's a really profound concept called equivalence. This was an idea championed by legends like Alfred Stieglitz. And equivalence is that moment the Ouroboros finally closes its loop perfectly. It's when the photograph stops being a picture of something, like a cloud or a tree, and it becomes a perfect visual metaphor for an internal feeling you have. The outside world you captured and your inside world become one and the same in that final image. And really, this is the ultimate takeaway from all of this. A photograph isn't a static object, a thing. It's an active, ongoing process. It's a doing. It's this beautiful dance between you, the camera, and the world, where every single step you take influences the next one. So I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time you're about to press that shutter button, just pause for a half second and ask yourself, are you really the one in control, taking the picture? Or are you just one part of a much bigger, much more mysterious loop that is actively taking you?